So this phrase, the first sentence was adopted from a visit I made to Czechoslovakia in 1991, shortly after their revolution. And the people there were the friends that I had there who were sponsoring me. Were talking about how great it was having democracy at last. They said everybody's free to speak, but nobody's listening. I thought that was a really powerful statement. So the role of listening at that point became very real to me as a major function in co-intelligence, collective intelligence, and wise democracy. So having the freedom of speech is absolutely essential, but the other half of having people who listen is important, and that goes in the group. It's really important. Group listening is very powerful, but also having somebody who is having a leader who clearly listens to their followers is very powerful also in the larger scope of society. So from a collective intelligence perspective, from a wise democracy's perspective, you are interested in accessing whatever the people, if it's a democracy, it's a we the people, of, by, for the people, whatever, the people are the source of the basic decision-making and wisdom that you're trying to operate on. So having people who are listening will allow people to speak whatever they have to contribute to the larger whole, information, perspectives, different ways of looking at things. And in a small group setting, active listeners, people who, when you speak, they are listening so well, it's drawing you out. There's another pattern in this deck of feeling heard. So having people be able to feel totally open, to flow out whatever they have, to relax into the conversation, so that internally ideas can flow through them rather than getting stuck, blocked, pushed, whatever. There's a flow phenomena that happens internally as well in the larger group. So that flow can generate and call forth the wisdom of everybody in the group. And it is more like wisdom than some personal perspective being pushed. So listening is a powerful catalyst. And also there's a phenomenon I learned in doing sacred listening circles. People talk about talking circles and talking sticks from the indigenous traditions, passing the talking stick. And at one point, we decided that the listening was more important than the talking, and that what's happening when somebody's talking is they are listening into the middle of the group, into the middle of the group's life. Often in the circles came from indigenous people sitting around a fire, and the fire kind of embodies the center of group experience, group spirit, and listening into that all the time, listening into that even when you're speaking, listening into that when nobody's speaking, listening into your center, which is a dimension of the group center. You can listen into the group by listening into your center. It's a almost spiritual practice of moving beyond your ego into the group space and the group spirit and the larger spirit that it's part of. So having times of silence when people just listen is a very important dimension of generating really group wisdom and collective wisdom that is useful for a wise democracy. It would be really interesting. I haven't thought of this until this moment, but the power of listening in a group in silence, which is a Quaker phenomenon, particularly in some meditative practices, have that also, listening for the voice within. What that would be like for a whole society or a whole community to do is a really interesting question. I don't know how it would manifest, but it's you stop and listen for the larger guidance that is available inside. Uh, anyway, so there's many different ways to do powerful listening, but I just wanted to highlight with this pattern how powerful it can be for creating the kind of flow of information and perspectives that generates wisdom. The processes that have been most powerful to me, and it's showing me the power of listening, are dynamic facilitation and nonviolent communication. In dynamic facilitation, there is the listener the facilitator who, particularly in the early stages, is the designated listener, will reflect back to, is very actively listening and reflecting back to, am I getting this, what you're saying? And that act manifests the kind of listening I was talking about before, that opens people up. And nonviolent communication is empathic listening. You're listening in order to understand where the person's living in the particular problem that they're struggling with, the conflict they're involved in, what is the deep need that is driving this person to behave in the ways that they are. So you are checking in all the time. Is this what you need? Is this what you need? As you're listening into what they're saying. And those are both forms of active listening, which often includes some form of reflection and engaging, saying, am I getting it? Is what's in my universe, reflective of what's in your universe? Let me know, that's an active form of listening. And there's, various forms of that, which recommend, nodding, looking at the person, all these things to help the person feel heard. But those are surface manifestations. The real active listening is a quality of attention, and having what's going on for the other person be way, way more important than what's going on for you personally as you listen to them. And the act of reflecting or mirroring, not just exactly what they say, but delving into the meaning, the underlying meaning and energy of what they're saying, and reflecting that back to them as a form of checking a feedback loop. And the listening project, I found there's a Rural Southern Voice for Peace, trains people in going around and doing listening on a particular social issue. My favorite story was this peace group, a white middle-class peace group that was trying to address issues with a Navy base that was stationed right near a Black working-class community. And all their flyers and promotion were doing no good, and the Rural Southern Voice for Peace suggested that they do a survey going door to door and say, here's a flyer that we have, a pamphlet. People aren't really paying attention, aren't understanding what we're trying to say. We're wondering if you could help us understand what's wrong with our promotion of this. And so, no, sure, come on in. They sit down, they'd look over, start reading the pamphlet, and they'd start to go, this stuff's really going on down there. They really start to get upset, and that the listening project not only helped them develop promotion that was better suited for the community, but also got organizers in the community. People were going, this is bad. We need to really handle this pollution, whatever was going on. So the power of listening, and there's lots of efforts to listen across boundaries. People going to major demonstrations and setting up listening booths to just listen to people on both sides. And there's a funny way of taking the energy down, increasing the humanity of everybody who's involved. So those are interesting explorations. And of course, the Quakers are a good example of listening into the silence within.